All right. Good evening, everybody. It's so wonderful to be back here on Mussar Mondays. So last week we discussed at the end of chapter 2 in Mesilat Yesharim that the Yetzer Hara has a way to make us busy to the point where we don't get a chance to think about the challenges that he's placing before us. He's not letting us think about our relationship with Hashem. He's not giving us the opportunity we need to do the things we need to do to have that relationship with God. So now he says as follows. Chapter 3, page 52 in the art scroll, Mesilat Yesharim, Way of the Upright. So this chapter is talking about the elements of Zihirut, the elements of vigilance. He says as follows. One who wishes to monitor himself in accordance with the concept of Zihirut, vigilance. There are two assessments that he needs to make. Number one, number one is we need to clearly contemplate and identify the true good that man must choose. What is good and what is bad? What is right? What is good? What is evil? What is the true evil from which one must flee? Right? So if we don't define what is good and what is bad, then we'll never be able to make that distinction as to, I want to do a good thing, I want to be a good person. Well, what is a good person? What is a bad person? Let's define it. And when we define it, then we know, oh, good is what I want to get closer to. Bad is what I want to get further from. But if we don't identify it, then we don't even know where we're going. V'hashniya, and the second area of scrutiny, al hamaasim asher hu aseh, pertains to the deeds that he performs, lirot im hem michlal hatov o michlal hara, which he must examine to see if they are in the category of what he has identified to be good, or in the category of what he has determined to be evil. Okay, so step number one in vigilance is identify your friend and your foe. What is good? What is bad? If you don't identify, I'll give you an example. Okay, Rabbi Noach Weinberg has a great mashal, a great parable that he says. He says, "Tell me, you're sitting on a bus, and you see a guy sitting right in front of you, stands up, opens his wallet, takes out a dollar bill, opens the window, and throws it out. Weird. A minute later, stands up again, pulls out his wallet, takes another dollar bill out, throws it out the window. A minute later, does the same. And one after another after another. What would you say about such a person? What would you say?
He's crazy.
He's crazy, right? He's crazy.
No, I don't know what he's doing. That's what I would say.
Most people,
what is he doing?
So, Rabbi Noach Weinberg says, tell me, what's more important? What's more valuable? Time or money? Time. And yet, we're ready to waste all the time in the world, but we're not ready to waste money. Right? So again, this is a classic identification. What is good? Is good time? So how am I with time? Do I utilize my time or do I waste my time? Now, relative to time, how does money fit in? Is money good relative to time? For sure, but relative to time, what is it better for me to save my time or save my money?
A little bit of both. They can't save
I know, but if you have one or the other.
Well, you really cannot save time. Time
meaning utilize your time.
You no matter what.
I know, but what if someone tells you like this, listen, you give your car, this is where people waste, I think, the most time, I think it's actually everywhere, but you go to bring your car for an oil change. Right? I've given this example before. Right, the two stores down, down over here on South Bracewood, you have an oil change, and I'd come there. I bring in my car to do an inspection or to do an oil change, and I walk in. I say, "How long is it going to take?" They say, "It's going to take 30 minutes." I say, "No problem. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Can you call me when it's done?" "No problem." I come run back to the center. I prepare a class. I do some other work. I come back. And I see in the waiting room the same people are sitting there watching Wheel of Fortune. time doesn't have value to them. Right? Bring a book, study something, learn something, go do it. No.
Advance yourself, not just stay limbo.
Nothing. No utilization of time. Time doesn't have a value. But if you told them it's going to cost you $10 extra, what? $10 extra? They'll go crazy. So to them, $10 is worth more, perhaps, than the 30 minutes. So you understand how we have an upside down world? When it comes to money, money is the most valuable thing. But that's not true. Time is the most valuable thing. How much are we ready to waste time to save money? And how much are we ready to waste money to save time? That's just one area. Time. Right? Think of, now time is the most valuable asset we have. But a person who has potential in other areas, and they don't utilize that potential, and they're wasting it. God gives you potential. God gives you the ability to sing, to play music, to dance, to write, to whatever it is, whatever skill God gives you, and you don't use it, it's potential being flushed down the toilet. Right? God's going to ask us, where's your writings? Where's your music? Where's what you were supposed to contribute to this world? And if God forbid we come back with nothing because we were too busy guarding our money, perhaps, or whatever else it is. Okay? So the first thing we need to do is identify what is good and what is evil. Then we have to analyze our own ways and think what fits into good and what fits into evil. The things that fit into good, great. How do I make them better? The things that fit into evil, how do I remove them? And this needs to be the pattern that we live our lives, thinking and contemplating constantly. Am I doing what is required of me? I'll give you another example. We all know that in a typical company, what would happen if you walk into AT&T? Yeah, you know what they say? I remember this from back in the early 90s. They said that what's his name? Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, or the CEO at the time of Microsoft. If he had $100 bills from his house to his office lined up, he'd lose money picking it up. Meaning, his time is more valuable sitting in his office doing work than picking up those $100 bills lined from his house all the way to the office. So his calculation is, how do I maximize my time? Every second of time is worth $1 million. So picking up a few $100s is wasting my time. I'm losing money, right? It's like you think of it from his perspective. Now, what's if he was changing the toilet paper, and what's if he was cleaning the windows? Would that be a good use of his time?
No.
That would not be a good use of his time. Because where his objective is to create a better product, make more money, whatever his objective was, cleaning the windows could be done by someone else. He doesn't need to be doing that. All right? Think of it now. Now, that does not mean that a man in his home shouldn't be doing tasks because he can have a maid do it, a housekeeper, right? It's part of someone being a servant of Hashem, is being a participant in the activities of what goes on in a home. And that's part of our responsibilities, to go out and go do those jobs that we're required to do, to show that we're part of a family. And that includes also washing the dishes and doing the laundry and cooking if you know how to do that, right? For me, I'm very limited. There's about 3 things I know how to do in the kitchen. Then I can clean up, but you probably don't want to eat the food I'll ever cook, okay? Right? Except for cholent, barbecue, and I think I can make eggs, right? But my daughter says you can't make pasta. I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's like, right? It's not. Hashem gave me other talents. Cooking is not one of them, all right?
You recognized that earlier on.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, I'll be very generous in trying to, right? But I don't think the results come through. My wife is a remarkable cook, and She knows what she's doing in the kitchen. I really don't. It's probably best that I stay out. But I'll happily do the shopping. Right? And I want you to know that I firmly believe that it's as valuable as teaching Torah. Because this is the work, this is what Hashem wants from me. He wants me to be a full partner in the activities that go on in the house. Now, a person needs to know what is good and what is bad. So if you know something is bad, something falls into the category of evil, and all of your friends say, hey, you're coming with us, you're coming with us to Vegas, you're coming with whatever it is that you determine is evil, that Hashem really doesn't like, and all of your friends say, hey, why don't you come with us? Come on, don't be a stick in the mud. Come on, come with us, right? If you know that this is evil, you have determined that this is evil, and now you have a very, very strong basis for your decision to not go. But the problem is today is that few people have declared and defined for themselves what is good and what is not good. So if we don't determine that, then we go by we just go by whatever's popular. We go whatever we're in the mood of. And this is where Ramchal is warning us. You must identify what is good and what is evil. And the minute we're able to determine that, now we can make an accounting whether or not we're in the category of good or the category of bad. And once we determine that, then we can see, okay, how do I fix the things that are in the evil category, and how do I maintain and strengthen the things that are in the good category? Okay, so now, Ramchal expands on the second area of scrutiny, the assessment of one's deeds. It says, now this examination that a person must be undertaken both, that a person takes upon himself, evaluating whether or not his deeds fall into the good or to the evil. So when do you do that? So there are two different times that you do that. One, in the middle of your actions. Two, not in the middle of your actions, meaning Bishat Maseh V'Shalot Bishat Maseh, at the time of performing a deed, and not at the time of performing the deed, as follows. Bishat Maseh, at the time of performing a deed, Shelo Yaseh Shum Maseh Mibli Sheyishkol Ota B'Moznei Zot Yidiyah. Zehirut, vigilance, requires that one not perform any deed without first weighing it on the scales of the knowledge of the true good. Meaning, let's talk about words. Right, so we know saying positive thing. I want to share with you something I heard today, which is absolutely incredible. And this was something I heard from a rabbi who is not a Hasidic rabbi, not a Chabad rabbi, just a rabbi who's a great Torah scholar. And he said he's always been fascinated by the Rabbi of Lubavitch. Right? The Rabbi of Lubavitch. How does he have 5,000 emissaries go out and they live in the middle of Kentucky? And how does he have, right, to go out in the middle of who knows where, anywhere in the world? It's remarkable. Whether you agree with their philosophy, don't agree, it's irrelevant. How can someone be so influential to do that? And he says he's been fascinated by this character. Who is this character? And he said he found something unique that he possessed. And that is, he always said the positive. Always said the positive, and never allowed for a negative comment to come out of his mouth. He was once giving a lecture on Thanksgiving, this rabbi says, and this rabbi is Rabbi Daniel Kalish, is a friend of mine. He's now a rabbi in Waterbury, Connecticut, and he says that it was Thanksgiving, and he gave a class he gave his lecture about Thanksgiving, and he says that families come together and have time to sit and talk. And he's talking about how beautiful it is that they have this opportunity to thank God. And you'd think that he'd go and get into a cynical statement at the end at some point and say, but, and go into how Judaism differs from that, or how we say thanks every day, and every day's Thanksgiving, and so on and so forth. He said nothing. Nothing. Only spoke about how beautiful it was. only spoke about the virtues of this great, of this great, and it's really amazing. It really is amazing that this man was able to focus on the positive of people. Now, you're sitting with friends. You're sitting at Starbucks, and you start talking about the president of the synagogue, and everybody likes to bash the president of the synagogue, right? Because it's an easy target, right? Someone likes what he does, someone doesn't like what he does, and even those who like what he does are skeptical why he did it. Does he have special interest? Right? Is he treating someone fairly or unfairly? Everyone has their theories as to why and what a president is and how they're acting. So let's think about this. What the Ramchal just said, the Ramchal just taught us that we must calculate at the moment of action, at the moment when someone's doing a deed. So now you're sitting there in Starbucks, you're about to say something nasty about the president. Oh, stop a second and evaluate. Evaluate. Is what I am about to say going to be nice or not? Is what I'm going to say fall into the category of good or evil? You know what? It falls into the category of evil. I'm not going to say it. Okay? So that's Bishat Maaseh. The Ramchal tells us, at the moment you're about to do something, evaluate. 1 second. Am I doing the right thing or am I doing the wrong thing? We should never be people who fall into the category of being robots. That's the worst thing. It's for us to fall into the category of being robotic, where we just do things because that's what I do. That's what I always do. We talk about people. We talk slander about people. They're not here to defend themselves. We just go. A person needs to evaluate. A person's about to walk into a store that perhaps isn't good for their spirituality. Someone's about to look at something that's not good for their spirituality. Someone's about to act in a way that's not good for their holiness. Stop before you act. Don't do a deed without evaluating it, putting it on your scales, saying, good or evil? Which one does it fall into? Good or evil? Now, what I'm trying to avoid, and what I think Ramchal is avoiding, is the middle ground, the gray area. It's called the American scale. Like, there's good, there's bad, and then there's whatever. It's like,
Straddle the fence.
Yeah, it's like...
Everything's not black and white.
Well, it's not black and white. But over here, Ramchal is not giving us that option. It's either black or it's white. It's either evil or it's good. There's no middle category. We have to, you understand? So we have to define for ourselves what is good and what is evil. Because there's no, well, it's good but evil. Right? It's evil how good it is. Right? So it's like, you don't have that. All right? It's interesting that the brain has two sides. There's two sides of the brain. The brain understands good, bad, true, false, black, white. The brain doesn't, right? So how come we see a world which is like, yeah, it's bad, but you can turn it into good. You know where that comes from? That's the heart. The heart is like a bubble gum, right? You stretch it this way and stretch it that way and stretch it this way. It's emotion. It goes, well, it's not all bad. You can make it. There's no such thing. The brain doesn't know that. The brain knows yes, no, true, false, good, bad. The brain doesn't work with a, well, maybe, that's an American invention, where you can have the good, but also it's like, can you afford it? Can you not afford it? Well, you can make payments. You still can't afford it, right? Right? In a sense, that's an American invention. But we have to understand here what the Ramchal is teaching us is that we need to be evaluating our ways. Is this good or is this bad? And if it's good, great. If it's not good, I have to stay away from it. And constantly be evaluating. That's at the moment of action. But then you have Shelo b'shat maaseh, and not at the time of performing a deed. Sheyaleh lefanav zichron klal maasav v'yishkol otam kemo chen b'moznei hamishkal hazeh. He says, vigilance requires that one call to mind the totality of his past deeds and weigh them similarly as he weighs his deeds when he actually does them on the scales of this assessment. Now, why is he saying this? If we calculated when we did the action, why do I need to calculate it later?
Perspective.
Well, sometimes you're in the moment, in the heat of the moment, right? You have one calculation, then you look back, you're like, you know what? That really wasn't so nice.
It's a learning opportunity to adjust.
Exactly. Sometimes at the moment you're not able to consider all of the consequences, all of the ramifications, all of the sides of your opinion, of your thought, of what is good and what is bad. After, sometimes hindsight 2020, right? We need to be that Monday morning quarterback every day, evaluating our actions. You know what? When I spoke, did I give everyone the opportunity to speak as well? Did I respect their opinion? Right? I don't have to agree, but did I respect it?
Hindsight is not negative. It's really a chance
to evaluate with a clearer perspective. But the benefit, every car has, about 180 degrees of vision, right? But then you have a little mirror to look in your behind you. You have a little mirror. You have to sometimes look back to know what's going ahead, right? You see what's going behind you. You see a car is flying past you, right? You know how to be careful with where you're going forward. Right? You have to use it properly. Use your past to apply to the future. That's, by the way, the definition of an adult. An adult uses the past experience and applies it to the future. What is a baby? Baby doesn't care about the past. The baby knows now. Right now I'm hungry, I cry, I do whatever I need to do now. Because now I'm hungry and I don't care that everyone's sleeping. Right? I don't care that you haven't slept in 3 days. I don't care, right? The baby knows now. And then you have a person who's in outer space. And what do? They're always thinking about the past. And they're like, oh, you remember we did this, we did that. Or dreaming about the future, right? But they're not applying the past for the present. Right? And that's really what an adult is. An adult is able to use past experiences and use them towards their future. We need to look at our past day. We need to look at our past actions and evaluate. 1 second. Did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? Does it fall into the category of the things that I defined as being good? Or does it fall into the category of the things that I defined as being evil? Ramchal is telling us we need to take an accounting. We need to be vigilant for our own actions. Lirot ma yesh bahem mehara leman yidche, to see what evil they may contain so that he may eliminate them. Uma min hatov lahatmid bo litchazek bo, and what good they contain so that he may persist in it and be reinforced in it. So we need to take an accounting of our actions. See, 1 second, the evil, I have to change my ways and go a different path. The good, I have to continue to. I have to continue to do these positive deeds. V'im yimtza bahem minara, and if he does discover some evil among his positive deeds, meaning he did a positive deed, but with a negative intention, it's a positive deed. You give the charity, but you do one-upping that guy, right? I'm going to show him, right? So it's a positive deed. Yeah, you're giving charity, but what's the purpose of giving that charity? Perhaps it wasn't with the pristine intention that one should have. Perhaps it was with a negative intention. So even though it's a good deed, it might be tainted because it wasn't completely good. Az yitbonen v'yachkor b'sichlo. He should then contemplate and explore in his mind. Eza tachbula yasel asur min harahu v'litar mimeno. Then a person needs to find a tactic that he needs to turn away from that evil and become purified completely. That means your actions should be pure in their entirety. That means, again, if a person evaluates, first, step number 1 again. Step number 1, we have to define what is good and what is evil. If someone sees that his ways are good, great. How do I strengthen them? If someone, God forbid, sees that their ways in which they're living falls into the category, or a few actions, or a action falls into the category of what they themselves defined as evil, then what happens? Then you have to find a way to change that. You have to find a way to influence a positive when you have that negative. But there's another thing. What if you have positive, and in that positive there was a negative influence? How do I change that negative influence to be all positive? Are we good here? We got it? Okay, this is really important information that the Ramchal is imparting to us. Is we need to be very vigilant in our day-to-day actions, understanding, do they fall into the category that I defined already myself? To take the Torah out of this for a second. You tell me what's good. You tell me what's evil. Okay, now according to your own definition of what good and evil is, look at your own actions. Do they fall into the good, or do they fall into the evil? If they fall into the good, great, let's strengthen them. If they fall into the evil, how do I fix them and repair them, or avoid falling into the evil ways? By the way, it's a very big tool. You should know, our sages and the Mussar masters tell us that not always are you going to have the strength to overcome the challenge. Sometimes you need to avoid the challenge to begin with. Meaning, don't expect to go someplace which has a negative influence and say, you know what, I'm going to resist. How about don't go to the place that has the negative influence? Don't be there to begin with. If you know going to a certain place you're going to be influenced potentially, then why are you going there? Right? Why are you doing that? Why are you going to that place? Why are you looking there? So a person needs to define for themselves, one second, if I am going to put myself into a place of challenge, then I'm probably going to fall. So it's much easier not to allow ourselves to be in that place of challenge to begin with. Right? So this is the fundamental teaching of Ramchal here in this third chapter. He's going to talk more about it. We're going to see it more next week. You know what? We'll do one more paragraph here where he's bringing from the Talmud a proof for this. He says, "V'davar zeh hodi'unu chachamenu zocharam levracha ba'omram." He says this is a Talmud. There is a Talmudic source for this important exercise. He says our sages of blessed memory informed us of this requirement to examine our deeds when they stated in the Brisa, "Noach lo la'adam shelo nivra yoter mishenivra." It would be more pleasant for a person not to have been created than to have been created. But now, what can we do that you have been created? Let him search his deeds. And others have taught the conclusion of the Brisa as saying, let him probe, literally feel his deeds. Examine your deeds. Examine your deeds whether they fall into the category of good or evil. Right? It's a very, very important teaching. I know I apologize for that we started a little late today, but I think it's a shorter class. But hopefully, this is a very important message for us to understand. There is good, there is evil, and we need to define for ourselves. By the way, this is one of the proofs that most people will tell you. Right? Without having to be scholars, without having to learn Talmud, most people in their own intellect can tell you what good and evil is. You don't need to be a rabbi for that. You don't need to be a scholar or a saint for that. Most people with their own intellect can tell you what good and evil is. The problem is we're not ready to take the time, or we're so ingrained in our ways that we don't want to admit to what is evil and what is good. Because that could be an implication of ourselves. We don't want to implicate ourselves in our own words. Okay, yes?
What I find helpful is in a situation like that, connect with God. If the action is going to disconnect me from God or make it more money, it's no good.
So essentially like this, I think like this. What is the real definition of a mitzvah? What is the real definition of a sin, of an avera? Right? My definition, and I don't have any biblical source for this yet. I'm sure there is some commentary or some midrash that will back this up, hopefully. So I'm not some heretic. But like this. A mitzvah is something that brings you closer to Hashem. A sin is something that distances you from Hashem. Okay, that's the definition in my worldview of what a mitzvah and a sin are. A mitzvah brings you closer, a sin distances you. So what's the real question? The question is, how do we know? How do we know? And that's the problem. The problem is if we don't have that sensitivity, if we don't have that understanding, then it becomes a big problem. Right? So, thank you, Michael. So, God willing, we'll continue next week at 7 o'clock. Okay?
We'll call you.
7 o'clock Central Time.
Got your number.
And, okay, there we go. And I look forward to continuing. Right now, we're going to continue the Breakneck Through the Bible class, which meets every Tuesday regularly, and we're going to continue that for the next hour. So to our friends online, thank you. I'm sorry that we cut it short a little bit today, but we look forward to seeing you next week. Tomorrow we also have a class, and the next day we have a class. Every day we have a class. So thank you very much for joining us online. Please like and share these videos, and we look forward to seeing you also live here in our lovely Torch Center. Have a terrific day, everyone.